On the new business, case number 15030, 60 Newbury Street Realty Trust. Paul Adamson for a trustee for a special permit variance floodplain to construct a new 5-story 16-unit residential building in a business C zoning district on the premise number 60 Newbury Street. Is the applicant or representative here? Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Board members, thank you for having us. For the record, my name is Christopher Harrington. My law office is at 21 McGrath Highway, Suite 301, and I represent Paul Adamson, who is the trustee of the 60 Newbury Street Realty Trust. We are here this evening to request from you a special permit for multifamily in the Business C zone, various dimensional variances, and a floodplain special permit. This property is located at the end of Newbury Street in North Quincy, not far from the Adams Inn. Newbury Street is a public way to approximately halfway down the street. It was accepted by the city of Quincy sometime in the late 1800s. And the remainder of the street, the second half of the street, is a private way, which today is a dirt road. So what we've done is we've applied to the Conservation Commission and been approved. We've applied to the Planning Board and been approved to extend Newbury Street to the end, to where it ends as a paper street on the city's plans, and build the roadway to city standards with a 35-foot roadway layout, because that's the roadway layout of the existing Newbury Street, so we really can't make it any wider. We can't make it a 40-foot way. So we're having 24 feet of pavement, 35-foot roadway layout, with a sidewalk, curbing all the way to the end, all new utilities, water, sewer, gas, electricity, and storm drainage, which it currently doesn't have. That was one of the big issues that we had to deal with the Conservation Commission, is that right now when it rains in that section of Quincy, the water just runs into the Neponset River completely untreated and uncontrolled. So this project, even though we're building something down the end of the street, it's actually improving the conditions from a stormwater system. Stormwater capacity, because the water is being captured, it's being put through catch basins and storm scepters and infiltrators before it overflows into the river, whatever we can't handle on site and infiltrate. So that's basically our project. We're starting construction on the far, if you look at Plan C2 in the engineer's set, to the far right-hand side of the plan is where the existing roadway ends. We're starting at that point, building the roadway all the way down to the end, and constructing our building at the end, what is currently a residential building at this time. The floodplain special permit obviously is because this whole area is a mapped flood zone. All of our living space is above base flood elevation. The first floor of the building is all parking, and all the living space is on the second floor and above. We're planning on putting elevator, mechanical rooms, utilities, all of that will be up above base flood elevation, so in case there is a serious flood there. The dimensional variances that we're asking for, we have a very unusual shaped lot. This is an existing conditions plan, which I believe was in your set. It's included in one of the plans that you have. I'm passing this out to you because this plan shows just the property lines and the new building. The existing building is a couple feet off the property line on one side. We're tearing that building down and improving the setback to 20-some-odd feet. And this shows where the street comes down and ends. One of the variances that we're asking for is frontage. We have 50 feet of frontage on a way, which is that 50-foot section of our lot that's on the side of Newbury Street. So the street comes down, it dead ends at our lot, but we have 50 feet of frontage on the side of the road. So that's the frontage that we have. And the other variance that we're asking for is the total lot area. Our lot is 19,841 square feet, more than big enough to be a legal Business C lot. However, in the footnote in the ordinance, when you do multifamily in Business C, you're supposed to have a 42,000 square foot lot. We don't have a 42,000 square foot lot. We attempted to purchase property from our neighbors, and we got nowhere with them to try to make the lot larger to meet the 42,000 square feet. And what's critical on this particular variance that we're asking for is that If you have a 42,000 square foot lot in Business C, you're allowed to build multifamily with 1 unit for every 500 square feet of land. So if you did have a 42,000 square foot lot, you could build 84 units by right in Business C. Our project, even though we don't have the 42,000 square feet, we're proportionally much smaller than that maximum standard would have been allowed by the footnote. We have 1,249 square feet of land per unit, and that footnote provides for 500 square feet of land per unit. So we have, more than double the amount of land per unit than what's required in the footnote. We meet the FAR. We're far below the maximum FAR. We're below the maximum number of stories, and the frontage variance, again, as I spoke to, the way our building is laid out on this lot, we're at the end of the dead-end street. So at one point, the point of that road where it comes right down to the end is about a foot away from the front of our building. So that's one of our front yard setbacks. Although our front yard setbacks range from that 1 foot to as much as 50 feet, depending on where you measure it on the building. So we're requesting a front yard setback variance. On the left side, our setbacks range from 8 feet to 32 feet. The reason for that is, if you look on the existing conditions plan, there's a heavy line on that plan, which is actually a timber bulkhead that's permitted by a Chapter 91 license. That timber bulkhead is not the property line. The property line is that serpentine line that runs down the side of the property right here. So our lot line is actually much closer to the side of this building, and that's where that 8-foot setback is, and the 30-foot setback is in this area over here. The final variance, which was granted to us by the planning board last month, we have. I want to point out an error that I made on the dimensional table on the application. On the parking spaces, it says 24 ground level, 16 tandem for a total of 38. 24 and 16 obviously doesn't equal 38, it equals 40. When we went to the planning board deleted 2 of our parking spaces because they were interfering with the turning radius for the fire engine. And so we actually have 22 ground level spaces and 16 tandem spaces for a total of 38. And we've been through site plan review. Our planning board approved it last month. They approved a special permit for us to have those 22 ground spaces and to count tandem spaces. And they also approved all of our parking setbacks as well. The tandem parking spaces are mechanical car lifts that are in the garage on the first floor. Every one of these parking spaces is going to have a hydraulic or mechanical lift that will pick one car up in the air and create basically 2 spaces out of every one. So each one of these condominiums has 1 parking space inside, which will automatically be 2 spaces for that 1 unit. And the rest of the spaces are outside the building. With me tonight is Tim Johnson, who's our architect. Also, Mr. Adamson is here as well, if you have any questions for him. And Michael Joyce is our civil engineer, directly behind me. And I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Tim Johnson, architect, 190 Old Colony Ave, Boston. And I'll be very brief in my overview and on the architecture, and I'll hand it over to the civil engineer. As Mr. Harrington was saying, this is a 5-story, 16-unit building. These are 2-bedroom, 2-bath units, approximately 1,400 square feet. They all have exterior dedicated balconies and also a common roof deck. The site location the building is located no closer to the Neponset River than the existing structure on the site. And the building is organized along a visual axis which goes directly through the building to the river. So every time you're on that axis, you have a view to the river, and it's a super organizing element for the building. The building materials, of course, will be hardy materials since we are in the river. Hardy plank on the exterior, aluminum paneling, nichia panels, which again is a cementitious board. And the windows will be designed for
exposure. And then two more things. One is, of course, Quincy adheres to the stretch energy code, so we'll be built 20% more energy efficient than current code. We are allocating space on the roof for future solar panels. And we're also following the dark sky initiative. So all exterior lighting will be downlit LED lights, so it will have nothing shining out toward the river. And the landscape plan. Our landscape architect, Kate Oranchak, is not here with us tonight. So she left it up to me to explain this wonderful plan she devised. This is all native planting found typically along a river, bayberry, different ivies. We are also planning a future Riverwalk connection here and here, so that in the event other abutters link up to that, we will be able to link up to that Riverwalk also. And with that, if you don't have any questions, I'll hand it over to the civil engineer.
Any questions? Mr. O'Brien?
I'm a little confused by one of the drawings, by one of your plans. Page A7.
The building section.
Right, the way that we call it, the way it's called out here, it says, I'm using the top floor, it says unit 16, then unit 15, and unit 16. Does 16 wrap around 15?
No, I think the office was just getting a little too picky, because that's probably slices through one corner of 15.
Okay.
No, these are fairly orthogonal spaces. We're not having any things coming in and out. So I think we're just being a little too smart for ourselves there.
Okay. Because I thought I was being. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Any further?
No questions. No questions.
Thanks.
My name is Michael Joyce from Joyce Consulting Group, the civil engineers on this project. As Chris briefly mentioned, the existing parcel is essentially there's an existing dwelling there, and basically compact gravel, broken concrete, some low-lying shrubs, nothing of really good substance. What we're proposing to do is create a new driveway or road from Newbury Street, 24 feet wide, down to the proposed building. The building access for the cars will be from the right side as you're looking from Newbury Street. You'll enter on the side and come on the left, so it'll be singular motion. The proposed drainage, we're providing catch basins along Newbury Street. Those will be collected by storm septic catch basins for treatment and overflow to dry wells. Those dry wells actually overflow to infiltration chambers on site, which eventually overflow into the Neponset River. Every catch basin is a storm septic unit, so that each one treats the water as it enters. Currently, there's no drainage improvements on site. We're also providing new water connections, fire and domestic, new sewer connection. The sewer connection, because of the distance, after talking with the DPW, it's going to be a pump chamber system. The sewage will be pumped up to basically where the existing accepted roadway ends. Prior to that, there is one manhole, but the slope isn't great on it, so we thought we'd bypass it just to avoid any future problems.
Is that by Burt's?
Not Burt's, is that the
Electrical plant?
Yeah. So the back, kind of the back end, where basically where the road turns from asphalt to gravel, is where that manhole is. So there will be ADA accessible spaces, parking spaces at the front of the building, and actually the sidewalk from the entirety of the walkway sidewalk on Newbury Street should be ADA compliant as well, because the site is so flat. We actually had to create a couple of high points in order to get positive drainage over Newbury Street. That's really about the extent of it, unless you have any questions.
Any questions on the drainage?
I'm sorry. The one question I have, you're going to do the work on the remainder of the street. Are you then going to make it a public way, or is it going to remain a private way?
We believe it's going to remain a private way because it's not going to be built to the full city standards. It's not 40 feet wide.
Okay.
We're not doing sidewalks on both sides.
So the maintenance responsibility will be with the ownership.
Right. It's an operation and maintenance plan for the home stormwater system, and it lists the owner of the complex as a responsible party. And I believe that's a condition of the planning board is to record that with the registry of deeds.
Okay.
Is there a walkway on one side?
Sidewalk on one
The
side.
southern side of the registry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, anything else?
Nope, that's our presentation unless you have any questions.
Any questions of the applicant?
No questions.
I just got a question about the ejector pump. It's how far does that have to go? Is that like,
I believe it's about 300 feet.
Yeah.
The pump's been sized, it's going to be a duplex system, so it'll be a lead pump and a lag pump. There'll also be an alarm in there, so there's actually a day's worth of storage of sewage in case that both pumps do fail or one's lagging and can't keep up.
power's out?
The power's out, they have time to repair it.
Is there, well, that's what I'm thinking, if the power goes out for 3 days, you know, and you're in a system like that with homes, is there gonna be a battery backup system or something for those pumps, or?
It's something that we hadn't discussed, but I'm sure it's something we could do.
I mean, it's not huge. I mean, it's,
Right.
just to pump that out, it's not huge, but I can't even imagine, we had power for 3 days last year, well, a year and a half ago. And, that wouldn't have been pretty. So maybe that's something, it's not hard to do that for a redundancy system. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in favor? First call? Second call? Third call? Call a part of hearing closed. Letter here from Councilor Coughlin, June 17th. Chairman Akins and board members, 60 Newbury Street. I am writing to you and the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals in order to express my support for the proposed 60 Newbury Street development matter, which is scheduled for a hearing before the ZBA on June 23rd. I regret that other commitments this evening preclude my ability to be present and convey his support directly. As a matter of background, I held community meetings as a matter of a few months back with notification to all abutters within 500 feet of the site. Only one abutter appeared before the meeting. I have heard from no other neighbors or abutters in opposition for this proposal. The only concern presented was in respect to the condition of the street accessing the location, which I believe the applicant would help improve. I believe this site is right for a good development project and hope that the board will grant the approval for this application. Kevin Coughlin, Ward 3 Council. I have a letter here from the DPW, 60 Newbury Street, case number 15030, June 4th, 2015, I'm sorry. We've reviewed the development documents from the planning board. Our comments and recommendations have been addressed and incorporated in this package. Therefore, we have no further comments with regard to this development. Is there anyone opposed or undecided? Opposed or undecided, first call? Second call.
How you doing, everybody? John Rodefield, 62 Grumwall Road. I just got some copies of the flood zone map.
What city you live in?
Quincy, Massachusetts.
Okay.
This came from like the city geo site. I just kind of did a screenshot of where that thing is.
Just want to stop 1 minute. I just met you and you said you were hoping to move back to Quincy.
Yes, I own property in Taunton. Kind of like I have dual
Where do you
residence.
live right now?
Currently, right now?
Yeah.
I'd say Taunton, Mass.
Well, I'd like to know your address, where you live.
15
Where's your residence
15
for this meeting?
15 4th Ave, Taunton, Mass. I would
Thank
say.
you.
Thank you. I gave you one of my business cards before the meeting. Basically, I'm against any new development in a flood zone. I've been noticing all the new developments. I've grown up in Quincy. I've been here my whole life, and they were developed everywhere that they could have developed back in the 80s. The only reason they haven't developed on a lot of these lots is because they are flood zones. And if you look at that map, some of the houses that aren't in the flood zone, when you build there, eventually they are going to be in the flood zone. I'm not against new development. We need new condos. It would be great to have something like this built anywhere else in the city that's not in a flood zone. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, people shouldn't have special permission to be in a flood zone. So let's say if they are in a flood zone, why are you going to grant them all these other variances? You know, you have to let something, you know, make sense. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I have a thing here that says that the lot is about 19,000 square feet, 19,841 square feet. That is the lot size I heard per unit, and whatever I heard about those elevators going up and down, that sounds very dangerous. I mean, we need parking, we need good parking, but we can't be developing in the flood zones that exist in the city. I mean, you guys have the power to stop them. Also a real estate broker, if sometimes people make a bad investment, okay? It's not your fault that someone buys a piece of land that happens to be in a flood zone and you guys will not give them permission to build. So you guys can stop, maybe it would make a good public park. I don't know what it would make good down there. It's right near Domino's Pizza, and talk about traffic coming around. That intersection was never intended for cars to come backwards going in the morning. So you got cars from Newport, you got cars from Hancock Street, and you got all those people from the Ponset Landing coming around. And I am moving back to Quincy, and it takes so long to drive, and even to park. It's a public hearing. I want to speak publicly. I want a place where I can publicly park. And I'm just against, I'm for development. I want new condos. I'd rather have all condos, not apartments. We need working people in Quincy, but we do not need any development on any flood zones. Let's set a precedent and don't let anyone develop on a flood zone. Those that passed already, good for them. But we don't have to have any more projects. Please do not flood the properties of people who bought many, 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 many years ago. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Earl. Is there anyone else? Last call, opposed or undecided? Call that part of the hearing closed. And I feel the same way. I don't like developing in flood zones either, but I'm going to tell you something. What this project is going to do for that area makes me in favor of it. What you're going to do down there and put some real drainage on them roads and perk some of that stuff that's just going right back into the ocean right now. It's like, it's sad. And it all comes to money. It comes to money and who owns that land, and no one wants to do that. And I'm glad you guys came here and wanted to do that. I really do. And Kevin Coughlin is not a guy to develop stuff. He just, to me, he keeps a tight lock on his area, and he's in favor, and he must have done a lot of homework to be in favor of a project like this, and that gives me trust too. So with that, I'll be voting in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll also be voting in favor, because I think people have to understand about these projects is that we're taking an area that is pretty much a disaster zone. Environmentally, it's not doing anything. It's just runoff is going right into the river as it is. This actually makes it better than what it is right now. And I think that a lot of time people may come in front of this board and suggest that we're going to do things that perhaps is worse for the environment. This is one of those times. And a lot of these floodplain applications are ones that are actually doing better for the community and doing better for the area. So I'll be voting in favor.
So Brian?
I agree. I'll be voting in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question on these storm drains. I know in the past we've put a condition in that they are maintenance and cleaned. I didn't hear anything like that.
Yeah, there's a maintenance agreement with all that storm drains. The road's going to be, has a maintenance agreement and everything, because it's all private. So that's going to be part of the planning board made that, correct? Council?
There's an operation and maintenance plan in the stormwater report, and that's a condition of the planning board's approval for site plan review, that they have to be cleaned twice a year and the street has to be swept.
I think the project is well thought out, I think it's been, the homework's been done, I'm in favor of the project.
McGrath?
It's gonna be an improvement, I don't know.
The only thing I'd ask is if they could look at a battery backup for those sewer injectors, and I'd like to put it in there if I could. Because that could be one horror story if it's not. It's not a lot of money, it really isn't, to put battery backup system just to run 2 pumps. Council?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could I suggest either a battery backup or maybe an emergency generator?
Anything.
That's big enough to
Sure.
run the basic systems if the power goes out for
That'd be
days.
great. And you're probably gonna have it anyway. Yeah. So, some sort of backup electrical system for the ejector pump with that.
Mr. Chairman, matter number 15-030, 60 Newbury Street Realty Trust, Paul Adamson, trustee, for a special permit variance floodplain to construct a new 5-story, 16-unit residential building in the Business C zoning district on premises number 60 Newbury Street, Quincy. I make a motion that we grant the special permit and the variance, and we also condition it on a backup electrical plan for the sewer pump
And the floodplain.
and the floodplain.
Second,
Second.
on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.